Hello?
Hi.
Are you coming to the happy hour? I need to vent.
I'm still at the office.
Oh my god, are you trying to be CEO or something?
Yeah.
You'll get there, but I'll see you at happy hour. Today's guest is a major leader in advertising and business, Jill Smith, the America's CEO of Iris Worldwide, an integrated creative agency. With over 15 years of experience across startups, agencies, and global brands in North America, Europe, and China, her journey is nothing short of inspiring. She's also a faculty member at the New School, teaching entrepreneurship and social innovation, and an early stage startup investor and advisor. Alongside leading an advertising company, she's a boy mom and passionate about extreme endurance sports. All right, let's get into it. Jill, when you first started your career, did you ever imagine you'd become a CEO? Was that the goal from the beginning? And if so, when
Yeah.
did you start actively pursuing it?
Yeah. I was reflecting on this question, and I remembered this distinct moment when I was really little. My mom asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And it's really funny. So I said I wanted to be a business executive, which is like a bit generic and not very clear, but that must have been when I like pre-kindergarten, because there's a
Wow.
picture of me on my first day of kindergarten. And I have on a skirt suit. So it's like a built on blazer, like embroidered onto the front of a dress with pearls attached to the collar. And I actually had a briefcase in kindergarten.
Oh my gosh,
It's
that's
like very, very next level. Like I really took it there at a very
yeah.
young age. But I guess short answer is no. Like my career has not been linear like everyone else's. I've done lots of different things. I've worked in higher education. I've worked within the commercial art world. And I found my way to advertising. But I would say during my time leading Iris Greater China, as managing director, it was during that experience that I really got a taste of business and agency operations, how you approach merger and acquisition, talent mapping, like all those exciting things that are kind of in the background. And it was sort of cemented there. So during that time.
That's so cool. Yeah. When I was little, I wanted to be like a basketball player, a pro basketball player, like a vet, So that's cool that you had that kind of in mind at a young age. I've always really looked up to you, and I remember a conversation we had that really stuck out to me, and you talked about kind of the importance of never being afraid to ask others for advice, and it's something you've really carried with you, and even now at the CEO level. So can you share how that mindset has shaped your career and the role it's played along the way?
Yeah, I it's something about my younger self that I'm so grateful for. When I moved to New York from Montreal for graduate school, I didn't know anybody. Like I had one friend from high school who was living in New York, and I was so grateful that she was here. But aside from that, I was starting graduate school in a new place. Also was looking for work, worked during my entire graduate school time. But if there was anyone who seemed interesting or like they had their shit together career-wise, I would reach out to them either on LinkedIn, or I would figure out what their email was
Yeah.
through like process of elimination, which I'm sure you also
Yeah.
have experimented with that. I was so amazed the amount of people that got back to me. And it's like pretty incredible. So early on, in my New York days, Sarah Robb O'Hegan, which I don't know if you're familiar with her, amazing marketer. She was marketing director at Nike, president of Gatorade, was CEO of Equinox. I reached out to her because I was just so fascinated by how she presented herself, the way that she showed up through thought leadership and through videos that I had watched of her online. And she got back to me right away and was so generous with her time to talk about her career, how she got where she was. And her big takeaway was she always had sponsors, like people who believed in her, who really helped push her forward. And that was kind of a reoccurring theme. But Richard Frankel, global creative director at Spotify, he was like, yes, I'll meet you for a coffee. This is like 15 plus years ago. People who are right now height of their career and were still doing very, very well 15 years ago took time because they had someone who wanted to know about their career because they were on a journey themselves. I've still continued to do this. So when I was in China, I think it's the thing that allowed me and by proxy Iris to be successful. I really did not care. Joined every club, made friends wherever, but led with curiosity and just assumed I didn't know anything and wanted to learn from everyone that was around me. But yeah, definitely still do it.
Yeah, and I actually have been experimenting with that as well. When I first came to New York, I just DM'd my favorite artist on Instagram and was like, "Oh, I've been a huge fan of your work." And she took me to Soho House for a coffee.
Yeah.
like now I've stayed connected with her over the years. And recently I also reached out to a fractional CMO. So she's been at a lot of my favorite beauty brands. And she gave me like an hour of her time. And
Yes.
I do think that it's scary to reach out to those people, but I've always thought never be afraid to, no matter what their title is, never be afraid. People are willing to lend a helping hand. I think it's always like how you come about it. If someone just
Yes.
pops up in your inbox is like they see a job opening and that's why, you're probably not gonna, they're more likely not gonna respond. But if it's
Exactly.
genuine and it's just, I'm seeking advice, I just want to connect with you, I really think you'd be surprised.
And like, even, I mean, now it takes a different shape. So I will, same things to people that are doing incredibly in their careers and reach out to them, but starting to build your own board of advisors, people that don't have the baggage of your business that can give you good advice about situations that they've probably lived through is an amazing practice to continue to do.
Coming from advertising myself on this podcast, I like to explain advertising a little bit because I think a lot
Mm,
of people who want to go into the industry or the creative industry don't really understand what it is. And one thing I think is really interesting is the advertising pitch process. So I'd love to
mm.
hear, coming from you as a CEO, what is that pitch process like? How involved are you?
Yeah. The pitch process is so interesting, and I've been in lots of growth roles kind of directly and indirectly throughout my career. And I think it's changed quite a bit, particularly within the advertising industry. It used to be you're working predominantly with consultants, search consultants. They're providing you with a chunk of your pipeline. They're vetted opportunities. Everything is quite buttoned up and polished, but it's a process. It's long. And we don't live in a world anymore where anybody can tolerate like a long, lengthy, drawn out process. And so we've found over the past like 18 months, probably even 2 years, there's a real kind of cut directly to the brand. So we will be contacted directly by procurement or by the marketing lead. And they either do not want to do a pitch, but they want us to go through like somewhat of a credentials
Yeah.
process, but more of a chemistry meet. If you're looking for like extensions of your executive leadership team with a creative agency, you want to make sure that you like the people.
Yeah.
So we found that credentials, can you do the thing? And then are you also nice people? Like, will we enjoy working with you are really key. So, but we are obviously still seeing some pitch processes that we're a part of. And the number one thing that's allowed us to be successful more recently is just confidence. Your client's coming to you because they don't have the solution and they really need help. And it's actually a very vulnerable moment for someone to say, I really don't know how to do this thing. You guys do. Can you help me do it? And then framing out what the problem is or the opportunity. And if you go in and you are nervous and intimidated by the ask, that optically just doesn't feel good. So we as a team have become more confident. We have really great chemistry together, and showing up with that is like an absolute superpower. If you're confident and you already like each other, they're buying that. So that's been really successful for us.
I love that. And I love how you hit on confidence because I think it is so important. A lot of times I've seen in pitches, people are intimidated by the ask because we've never done it before or something.
Yeah.
Like, if you really believe in the idea and have confidence for it, I think that's really all that matters. And people can really
Yeah.
read that.
Yeah, for
Confidence,
sure.
honestly, in every career is really important. I think it's even growing in your career and taking the next steps. If you have confidence in your abilities, it just kind of pushes you forward.
Yeah, agree.
So, have you ever faced any sort of burnout in your career?
I have. It's so interesting how you kind of forget about it. And I've had two different instances of burnouts. The first was earlier on in my career, I founded an agency called Mayonnaise based in New York. And at the very tail end, we were working through an acquisition and I was looking to exit. And it was all a bit too much. By the time everything had kind of finished, I was just toast. I really didn't realize the emotional impact it had had on me, the whole process. When you're building something as a founder, it's so completely you. And my identity was so attached to it. And so going through an exit process felt really, really difficult. But what it did is it led me to my acupuncturist famous. So almost 15 years ago, someone referred me to this incredible woman. And I see her now twice a month and have for over a decade. And she really sort of like nursed me back to full strength. But I ended up getting like an acute kidney infection. Like all these weird things happened because I was so just out of my body. And the second instance was on my coming back from China. I was about to step into CMO for North America for Iris. Similarly, My stint in China, that market is incredibly full on. New York is hardcore. China is like
Wow.
next level. And so I really gave it everything that I had. And when I was wrapping up, was not paying attention to wellness. And so those two things happened quite far from one another, but the lesson was the same. It's like you need to make sure you're keeping an eye on you because burnout can really creep in even when you think you are doing all the right things.
Yeah. Wellness is so important. And it is really hard
Yeah.
when you're all the way in it to focus on those things. But
Yeah.
you can't give your best self unless you are focusing on wellness and things like that. Do you have like a favorite or most defining moment from your career?
I can think of a moment that was like, it was a real powerful one for me. I think around my stint in Shanghai and just going to China with like a blank piece of paper roll was really challenging. And from year one to year two, we grew significantly. All of a sudden went from being 2 people to being 25. We
Wow.
acquired a domestic agency that was based there in Shanghai. But the defining moment was when we won AOR for Club Med China. And so, really massive multinational company, strategic and creative and social AOR was huge for us. And so, that was the first time that we had any real success in Asia. Obviously, Chail, our parent company, has had significant success and has a significant footprint. But for Iris, it was really big. And that pitch process was really hard. It was really grueling, really tough CMO, assembled an excellent team. But we went through 3 or 4 different rounds. And so when we got finally the news, I was actually in the US for a summer break. And I remember just being like, okay, this is happening. Like it just was kind of like all systems go. All right. Like
Oh, that's
it's
cool.
going the direction it should be going. So it was really I remember, gratifying, exciting moment.
And how long did you work in China?
I was there for 3 years. And
That's
so I left serendipitously right before COVID, like the two
wow.
things indirect, but yeah,
Really cool. What an amazing experience.
it really was.
Did it change your perspective on advertising a little bit? Just being there?
Yeah, I really was hungry to work in Asia and raise my hand, throw me at at the biggest opportunity for the company. And China was a bit of a challenge. Like we didn't know how to figure it out. It's a really complicated market, massive, massive opportunity. And my interest in going there was just the future of marketing is there. Like
Wow.
omni-channel, 360, digital first, personalized shopping experience in store, like mirrored to your phone. Like this is now like 5 years ago as well. So think of where we are in the US. They been there, done that, China. So it was really cool being there and working with clients who are trying to figure out how do they tackle the future when it's happening today. So yeah, it was amazing.
I love that. Would you say you've ever faced any challenges as a woman CEO, particularly in the advertising industry?
I really haven't. And that's probably a massive understatement, but it's more like I've been really fortunate to have advocates, sponsors, mentors who've continued to push me forward. The thing that I've definitely noticed now that I've been sitting in this seat is how few female leaders there are once you reach a certain level. Even just a few years ago, I wouldn't have said that, but now that I sort of like really have a sense of the playing field, there's a huge cliff. And if you look kind of across department, it's the case. It's not in one specific area or another. So it's something that has made me want to be a lot more vocal and direct in trying to nurture females in their careers because it's just there's a certain moment in time where people kind of opt out and I don't want that to be an option. I want people to feel included.
That's really empowering. And I think, luckily, from my experience, I did feel that advertising today, it is very inclusive. It's an industry where you get to learn a lot about business, but you also really get to have fun, collaborate, and express yourself. And it's not like Mad Men anymore, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I definitely, I think there still is that huge gap in female leadership.
Yeah, it still is a little madman-y, teeny bit. Like I think that there's people are allergic to that though now. Like there's a real awareness where there wasn't an
Yeah.
awareness before. So that if anything is really helpful and that's progress when people see it and recognize it, then you're going in the right direction. I would just love to see a lot more change, particularly within product. So product leads, be it creative, be it strategy, be it data, AI, like seeing more female leadership in that space.
Yeah, agreed. So I'd love to hear about what you do as an early stage startup investor and
Yeah.
advisor. What kind of companies do you invest in?
Yeah. This is something that, again, like I became really interested in the founder startup community when I was in Shanghai. There's a vibrant tech and startup world there. We were working with a number of companies that had corporate venture capital entities. So they had an innovation incubator as part of their company. And I love everything around that. Businesses and brands that are really thinking about what does innovation look like? How am I looking at the future while still making sure I'm keeping the lights on by doing what I already know how to do? And even having that foresight and desire to invest in what's next, I always thought was fantastic. So when I came back to the US, I just did the same thing, got really involved within the founder community, have been acting as a mentor for tech stars like any of the sort of startup communities that have incubators and offering my time to support any founder that's kind of at the early stages. But I really also love supporting female founders. About 2% or less than 2% of all venture capital funds go to female founders. That's a really small amount of investment dollars when some of the most incredible businesses have come from female founders. Canva, Blue Sky, like Glossier, like so many companies with really significant valuation have women at the helm. And we've seen that success repeated. Like there's not data backing that. And so any area in which I can support, I do. And if it's through time or through connection or through commercials, I make myself available. But right now, I'm working with a female founder named Lizzie Palmer. She's launching a cycle syncing app in October called Sync In. And really incredible woman. She's come from tech background, is doing the coding herself. And then I've brought in Iris and McKinney actually to support with the go-to-market strategy and doing the brand Viz ID, which has been amazing exercise working with her in that regard. So yes, female founders is sort of my main area of focus. I love also innovation within the consumer space, and then of course anything related to childcare and climate.
That's really cool. I love that. Is it hard to balance doing that also with your CEO role?
I find that all of these things sort of are somewhat connected. And so I think the further along you get in your career, everything kind of starts to mix. So even if I think about being faculty at the new school, I'll bring in clients to be a guest speaker for one of my classes. For some of the founders that I'm advising, I'll then bring them into the agency so we can support them with any of their marketing strategy. And there's no such thing as a free lunch. These people are going to come back to you at some point, and even if it's not them paying you for work, they'll continue to pay it forward within their network.
Yeah, that's really true. I love that. Well, have you ever been intimidated when stepping into some of the big roles you've had?
I really have, which I feel like that's probably obvious, but the imposter syndrome thing is really real. There have been a few instances where it's been incredibly crippling. When I came back from Shanghai, I was really worried that I wouldn't be able to replicate the success I had had there. So there was real concern that I was like, I don't know if I can do this again. Like that feels like a really big ask, but it ended up manifesting as just imposter syndrome. I had a really difficult time, wasn't showing up with confidence, and I actually sought out an acting coach. And this is another cool little trick of the trade that I don't know if anyone talks about or if this is a thing, but acting coaches, I actually think are better than therapists. Like that's probably not true, but they're almost as good. They immediately kind of get to any of your insecurities really quickly. Like they strip you apart and then they build you back up, which is like classic for any sort of coach style. But for acting, the output is meant to be performative. So like, who are you in your best self when you're in front of your team or a big client meeting, or if you're giving a talk in front of 500 people? How do you want to show up? How do you want to storytell? And then they help you figure out how to do that so that you're not so focused on you, you're focused on everyone else. And I found it to be the most life-changing work, if I'm honest. Like I went from being pretty paralyzed after having a really successful moment in my career to being able to like really get my feet under the desk again and get that confidence back.
Did they kind of help ease your nerves a little bit and help with that? Because I can find in my career, that's one thing. Sometimes I'll get up in front of everyone and I just freeze a little bit.
Totally. That, yes. The short answer is yes, but ultimately it's all about like embodiment And if you feel like safety in yourself and you can kind of breathe through it, and also positive visualization, I do a lot of that, where you think about what the experience is going to be like and how amazing you're going to feel because you were so successful afterwards. It then helps you kind of chill when you go to do the thing because you've actually already mentally completed it. Like
Wow,
that.
that's a really great tip. I actually went with a few of my old coworkers. We went to improv on like a free
Mm,
thing on a Tuesday, and we just threw our names in the basket. I had never done improv before, neither had one of my other coworkers, and we had to go up there. It was really scary, but like you just kind of forget where you are and that there's a crowd in front of you. And it was just so fun. And I remember thinking, okay, this is a really good thing to help build confidence in yourself, and especially with like being in front of a crowd of people. It was a great experience. And it's kind of like a place you can just be your weird
totally.
and not
Yeah.
care about judgment or anything like that. And it was awesome.
It's a really powerful tool. Like being able to speak extemporaneously, so like without you haven't rehearsed, someone gives you a prompt and you just have to go. That is a skill you'll use for the rest of your life. And
Yeah.
you'll need it at cocktail parties, you'll need it at meeting new people within the office, clients, like all of that's really helpful, but scary. Improv is
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah.
So good on you.
Do you still go to the acting coach or
So this is interesting. I saw this guy 3 times and it was like almost like a cure. He's like, I'm
wow,
not seeing you for a long time. Like,
my
because
God.
he does not work. He was like, I don't typically take this type of case. Like, I'm not an actress. He's amazing. He's like legendary. He's Leonardo DiCaprio's acting coach, Larry Moss. But he's kind of like a cranky old man. And within the first 10 minutes was just like the way that you end sentences sounds like you don't believe yourself. And I just was like, okay.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, that seems awesome. I want to try that out. I think it's just a good, yeah, like you said, it's a really good skill to have.
Yeah, it's like outside of the traditional like exec coach box. I mean, I everyone needs to have a version of that, but I had a really specific thing that was like holding me back and I needed help with that. And I was
Wow.
like, being able to perform will help me get confidence back, and it really did.
I feel like a big part of strengthening your career is kind of being able to notice what your weaknesses are and not be
For
hard on
sure.
them. Just think, what can I do to fix them? Because I think a lot of people can go their whole careers with not even noticing that, they're not the best public speaker or whatever. And then they're just like, whatever, that's just not me. But I think it's the people who really see those things and want to overcome those challenges. I think that can be a really helpful tool, and just noticing, okay, yeah, maybe my writing's not so good. How can I get better at that or whatever it
Yeah.
is?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, next Tuesday, I'm speaking in front of 400 people.
Wow.
Not my favorite thing at all. But I've gotten to a place where I I can prep for it. I know that I'll be prepared and I trust myself. But those skills only come from having a coach and doing it over and over again. So it's like a combination of like experience and intention. Like you need to be really intentional about the things, to your point, that you know are not like your natural born superpowers.
What might young listeners be surprised to learn about what, a CEO role involves? Like, are there things you do that you didn't expect would be part of the job?
Definitely there are things that I did not expect are part of the job, but the biggest thing for me is sort of thinking about the future of the agency. That sort of is the thing that occupies most of my mental space rent free. But I have on my desk at home a post-it that's the former PepsiCo CEO Nadira. Quote is, build a business for your customer 5 years from now. It's always a reminder that there's certain things you have to solve for right now, but really we're trying to build a company that's future proof. And over the next 5 years, with AI and all the things that our industry is already going through, we're going to be a very different shape and size. And so, what does that look like? So I think that's the piece that I probably thought was going to be less of the role, but it actually is a pretty big piece because it informs operations, informs hiring decisions, it informs where you're looking to scale and grow. So are you looking to continue to expand your footprint, or is that actually more high risk and you should look at a combination of remote work, hybrid, and focus on an anchor city location? Like there's so many different ways to think about the scale and structure of a company. And so I've really enjoyed that part. And it's the piece that I actually thought was going to be a little bit less prominent.
Wow, that's really amazing. And do you think as a CEO also you're facing a lot of just fires that you have to kind of put out, and how do you balance thinking about the future while also, you're going to be
Mm.
probably each week something blows up and trying to solve for that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And this is always, no matter what you're doing, going to be the case. It's like, what's going to have the most impact for you? And this is sort of like daily practice of what's high impact but needs to be delivered now and is more tasky? What is more long term and strategic but still needs to be addressed? The things that are long term and strategic, those are always on. They're work streams that have like really clear milestone check ins. And that allows you to be able to make space for managing some of the fire drills. But by having a good structure in place, those fire drills don't blow up your entire operation. They're really manageable. So you have a person who's accountable for a client that's pissed off, or you have, so you have sort of checks and balances in place with a really strong leadership team that's able to support you through both the strategic, high effort but long term stuff, as well as the short term stuff that just needs to be dealt with now.
Yeah, that's so true. I think a lot of leadership is putting the right people in the right places, or
Yeah,
sometimes coming in and, you're like, you know what? Actually, this person, they're doing great in their role, but they would actually be better here.
100%. I've had this happen to me a couple of times in my career where someone has said, Yoink, I'm taking you. And I'm so grateful that they did. They saw something in me that I didn't see, and they, took a chance that I would be able to do the thing. That is something that's really exciting within my role now, is really seeing opportunity in talent and know and giving them an opportunity that they otherwise wouldn't have had. So I really agree with that. It's like talent nurturing is like a big component of this role for sure.
Are there any challenges in balancing parenting and leading a company? How does it shape your perspective? We actually have a younger mom who's a huge fan of our podcast, and she reached out wanting to hear more from mothers just about
Yeah.
tips for growing their professional journey while also raising a family.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an old mom. I had Corbin when I was 39, older mom, I should say. And it's hard. I'm not gonna, all the cliches that you've heard about working mom, all of it is true. I think the thing that I'm so aware of is in retrospect, it feels like I was so careless with time. Like I didn't really protect time because it was just infinite. I had it, I could use it, I could work until I wanted to stop working. You don't think about time the same way, whereas now I've really had to create boundaries around time for everything. And I think that's actually a really healthy practice. It's allowed me to be a lot more efficient and effective, be really clear on where I am making impact. But I wish that some of the stuff that working moms do is normalized. Example, the number of times that it's been 1, 2, 3 in the morning and I've been trying to finish something for work, that my son has woken up multiple times, that I'm holding his hand on the floor while also on my computer trying to, like, it's wild. And I always have a moment where I'm like, this is so ridiculous. I wish someone would take a photo of this, of me in the pitch dark, trying to put this baby to sleep and also trying to finish something. And it's funny in retrospect. In the moment, it's hard, but it's also really memorable. I will look back and remember all those moments that I was still there for him and still doing the thing that was important to me to get done. So I wish those things were normalized, but within the Chael Network, you have people like Joe Maglio, CEO for the Chael Affiliate Network, who is a father out loud. He talks about his family, he shows up for his children. And having someone in a leadership role like that gives permission to everyone else to talk about their children, to show up for their children and family. And so I have not previously really ever had that. And so it's been really inspiring to see the way that he sort of incorporates them. And I think it's given a lot more people permission to do so.
And especially in the advertising industry, we're always kind of thinking about the next generation, and having children is really powerful in your perspective, and like what kind of work should we be putting out in the world? Because you're like, well, what do we want our kids to see, And that's actually something I wanted to touch on was, since Iris is owned by a parent company, Chael, how do you collaborate with the other CEOs, someone like a Joe Magda, or just some of the other CEOs,
Mm-hmm.
the regions?
Yeah. Within the Chael Affiliate Network, we have Barbarian, McKinney, Iris, and Cylinder, and then, of course, Chael. in their own right as an agency network. We've all come together, particularly within North America, and we actually work quite collaboratively. We meet with high frequency. So once a month, we're connecting as just the CEOs with Joe at the helm. There's also a Chail affiliate network, a full leadership team, including a CPO across the entire affiliate, an operations lead, a new business lead. And so we are kind of a tight little squad, but this is really new. It only started in January, and we've already seen such progress in just how integrated we are as agencies. Iris does not have a media component to our business. We champion owned and earned. And if there's a media buy component, we would make suggestion to use Attention Arc, which is the affiliate network's media arm. So we would pull them in. Similarly, Barbarian, tech, AI, digital, some of their expertise and capabilities, we would pull them in for support. So we've really created an environment where that's a lot more likely because of the relationship building that we've been doing.
Yeah, it's really cool. The more people that come together, the more exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so in your experience, what personality traits or habits make someone a strong leader?
The two things that always rise to the top for me, it's curiosity. So I always in my mind lead with curiosity, not judgment.
Yeah.
Assume you know nothing and enter every conversation like that, and it will be a better conversation. And the second one is motivation. If you're motivated, you've already made it 90% there. Yeah. So being motivated, having intention, and being really curious will take you a really long way.
I love that. I'm going to take that advice. I have always valued curiosity as well. And it's amazing just being curious in every aspect and thinking, how could this tie in with this? Or, what happens if I try this?
Yes.
I love that. And kind of wrapping it up here, what is your personal formula for success? This is a question we like to ask a lot of our guests.
Personal formula for success. I think be relentless in your pursuit, whatever that pursuit is. If I look back at some of my earlier years when I was first getting started, I just kind of grinded. I know grinding is sort of canceled, this burnout culture and working super hard. But I think part of it was I really just had an idea of what I wanted to do, and I was relentless in my pursuit to figure out the best way to do it, the best way to get there. And so, yeah, I think be relentless in your pursuit. That's my personal formula.
That's really amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was great to see you.